I never thought my life would turn into a soap opera, but here we are. I am a 29-year-old female, and I have been entirely estranged from my biological family for 10 years. I have a younger sister, Sarah, 27F, who was the light of my parents' lives. If Sarah wanted a toy, she got 3. If I needed new shoes for school, I was told to be grateful for the ones I had, even if they had holes in the soles. My parents were obsessed with image. Sarah was the pretty, bubbly cheerleader type, while I was the quiet, nerdy girl who preferred baking and reading. To them, Sarah was a trophy. I was just a utility meant to do chores and stay out of the way. The breaking point happened when I was 19 and Sarah was 17. My parents kept a significant amount of cash in a safe in their bedroom. Emergency funds, they called it. One afternoon, my dad went to check the safe and found it empty. Over $5,000 was gone. Naturally, the inquisition began. They sat us both down at the kitchen table. Before I could even speak, Sarah burst into fake tears. She told them a ridiculous story about how she saw me sneaking into their room earlier that week. She claimed I had been talking about running away with a secret boyfriend and needed money. It was a blatant lie. I didn't even have a boyfriend, and I was working 2 part-time jobs to save for culinary school. But Sarah was a master manipulator. She even produced a receipt she claimed she found in my trash can. A receipt for a high-end camera store. The twist? Sarah was the one who wanted to be an influencer and had been begging for a camera for months. My father stormed into my room and tore it apart. He found the empty cash envelope under my mattress. I was stunned. Sarah must have planted it there while I was at work. "I can't believe we raised a thief," my mother screamed at me. I tried to defend myself, begging them to look at the facts, to check Sarah's new belongings, but they wouldn't listen. My father looked me dead in the eye and said, "You are a disgrace. I want you out of my house tonight." It was 9 p.m. on a Tuesday. I packed 2 suitcases with my clothes and my few baking supplies. Sarah watched from the top of the stairs with a smug little smile on her face, mouthing the word bye. I had nowhere to go. I sat on a park bench for 3 hours, crying, until I worked up the courage to call my Aunt Marie. Marie was my mother's older sister, but they hadn't spoken in years because Marie didn't respect their parenting style, which meant she called them out on their favoritism. When I told Aunt Marie what happened, she didn't ask questions. She just said, "Send me your location. I'm coming to get you." Living with Aunt Marie was the first time I realized what a normal, loving home felt like. She never doubted my innocence. When I told her about the camera receipt, she laughed bitterly and said, "Your parents are blind fools." A week after I moved in with her, I saw a post on Sarah's Instagram. She was posing with a brand new professional camera and a designer bag, captioning it, "Treating myself because I deserve it. #blessed. I showed it to Aunt Marie, and she just shook her head. "Success is the best revenge, honey. Forget them." I cut off all contact. I blocked their numbers. I focused entirely on my passion, baking. Aunt Marie helped me pay for a specialized pastry course, and I worked tirelessly. While Sarah was partying on my parents' dime, I was waking up at 3 a.m. to knead dough and temper chocolate. Part 2. The taste of success and the return of the vultures. Fast forward 10 years. I am no longer that scared 19-year-old girl crying on a park bench. Thanks to Aunt Marie's support and my own obsession with perfection, I made a name for myself. I started small, selling custom cookies out of Aunt Marie's kitchen. Word of mouth spread like wildfire. 3 years ago, I opened my own brick-and-mortar bakery called The Velvet Crumb. We specialize in high-end, artistic wedding cakes and French pastries. I'm not trying to brag, but we are fully booked 6 months in advance, and last month, Food and Wine magazine featured my bakery in a top 10 hidden gems article. I was finally happy. I had a condo, a thriving business, and Aunt Marie, who was now more like a mother to me than my biological one ever was. I hadn't spoken to my parents or Sarah in a decade. I assumed they were living their perfect life without the black sheep. I was wrong. 2 weeks after the magazine article came out, I was in the back of the bakery frosting a 3-tier cake when my assistant, Chloe, walked in. "There's a couple in the front insisting on seeing the owner," she said. looking confused. They say they're your parents. My piping bag almost dropped from my hand. I felt a cold shiver run down my spine. Part of me wanted to tell Chloe to kick them out, but a morbid curiosity took over. I wanted them to see me. I wanted them to see the empire I built without them. I washed my hands, straightened my chef's coat, display case, and walked out, staring at the prices of the macarons. They looked older, much older than I remembered. My father looked tired, and my mother's hair was graying and unkempt. When they saw me, my mother's face lit up with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Oh, look at you!" she exclaimed, reaching out to hug me. I took a sharp step back. "What are you doing here?" I asked, keeping my voice professional and cold. My father cleared his throat. "Is that how you greet your parents? We saw the article. We're proud of you." The word proud sounded alien coming from his mouth. I didn't invite them to sit. I crossed my arms. "You kicked me out at 19 with nothing. You don't get to be proud now. State your business, or I'm calling security." My mother nervously glanced at the customers in the shop. "Can we talk somewhere private? Please, it's about family." I led them to my small office in the back, mostly because I didn't want them making a scene in front of my clients. As soon as the door closed, the facade crumbled. "We need help," my dad blurted out, dropping the proud parent act immediately. "It's Sarah," my mom added, wringing her hands. She's in a bit of trouble." I almost laughed. "Let me guess. The golden child needs money?" It turned out, a bit of trouble was an understatement. Over the last 10 years, while I was working 14-hour days, Sarah had been bleeding them dry. She had dropped out of 3 different colleges, started a failed fashion line, and gotten into legal trouble for driving under the influence, twice. My parents had refinanced their house to pay for her lawyers and her lifestyle. Now, the bank was threatening foreclosure, and Sarah was pregnant with a boyfriend who had just left her. "We are about to lose the house," my mother sobbed. "We saw how successful you are. This bakery, it's a gold mine. We just need $80,000 to catch up on the mortgage and get Sarah settled for the baby." The audacity was staggering. "So, let me get this straight," I said slowly. "You falsely accused me of stealing $5,000, kicked me onto the street, and ignored me for 10 years. Now that Sarah has ruined your finances, you want me to bail you out with 80 grand. We are a family," my father shouted, his face turning red. "You have plenty. Look at this place. You owe us for raising you." "I owe you nothing," I replied calmly, though my heart was pounding. "You chose Sarah. You bet everything on her. You lost. She is your sister," my mom pleaded. "She is having a baby. You can't let your niece or nephew be homeless. Sarah is sorry for what happened in the past. She was just a child. She was 17, I corrected her. "And she framed me. Did she ever admit to stealing that money?" My parents went silent. They looked at each other. That silence told me everything. They knew. They probably had known for years that Sarah stole the money, but they had swept it under the rug to protect their precious image. "Get out," I said, standing up and pointing to the door. "You selfish brat," my father spat. "If you don't help us, we will tell everyone what a heartless monster you are. We'll go to the press. We'll ruin your little bakery. Get out." I pushed them out the back door and locked it. I leaned against the heavy metal door, shaking with adrenaline. I thought that was the end of it, but I underestimated how desperate and how delusionally entitled my family had become. Part 3, the smear campaign and the final receipt. I didn't have to wait long for them to make good on their threats. 3 days after I kicked my parents out of my bakery, the reviews 1-star ratings on Google and Yelp. "Found a fingernail in my croissant," one read. Another claimed, "The owner shouted at an elderly couple and refused to serve them." Then came the Facebook post. My mother wrote a long, tear-jerking story on a local community page, painting herself as a destitute victim abandoned by her heartless, wealthy daughter who forgot where she came from. It went semi-viral locally. I had customers calling to cancel cake orders. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing with notifications. For a moment, I panicked. I felt like that helpless 19-year-old girl again, watching my life get torn apart by lies. But then I remembered, I wasn't 19 anymore. And this time I had receipts. I called Aunt Marie, who came over immediately with a bottle of wine and a lawyer friend of hers. "They are playing dirty," Marie said, reading the comments on my mother's post. "It's time to take the gloves off." I realized I had something my parents didn't know about. My office, where the confrontation took place, was equipped with high-definition security cameras that recorded audio. I had installed them for liability reasons when dealing with wedding contracts, but they had captured the entire conversation with my parents perfectly. I sat down at my computer and edited the footage. I cut it to the most crucial parts. My mother admitting Sarah had drained their savings, my father demanding $80,000, and the cherry on top, my father screaming, "If you don't help us, we will tell everyone what a heartless monster you are. We'll ruin your little bakery." I didn't just post the video. I wrote a detailed blog post on my bakery's website titled, "The Price of Silence." I laid Why I will not be extorted. I told the story of the missing $5,000 10 years ago. I explained how I was kicked out with nothing. I explained that the Velvet Crumb wasn't built on family money, but on 18-hour workdays and Aunt Marie's kindness. And then I embedded the video. I posted the link on my business page, responding directly to the hate comments. The reaction was instantaneous and explosive. Within hours, the tide turned completely. The local community, who had initially sided with the poor elderly parents, was outraged by the video. People saw the greed and malice in my father's eyes. They heard the extortion clearly. My mother tried to delete her Facebook post, but screenshots live forever. The internet sleuths even found Sarah's old public posts flaunting the expensive camera and designer clothes from the week I was kicked out, piecing together the timeline of the original theft. The consequences for them were catastrophic. My parents were shunned by their church group and neighbors. The GoFundMe page they had set up to save their home was flagged for fraud and taken down. As for the legal side, my lawyer sent them a cease and desist letter regarding the defamation, attaching a copy of the security footage as evidence that we would win if this went to court. They went silent immediately. 2 months later, I heard through Aunt Marie that the foreclosure went through. My parents lost the house. They had to move into a small, rundown apartment in a different town. Sarah, realizing there was no more money to bleed from them, apparently moved in with her baby's father's parents, who are reportedly making her life miserable. Was the 10th anniversary of the day I was kicked out. I celebrated by baking a simple vanilla cake for Aunt Marie and me. We sat on the balcony of my paid-off condo, watching the sunset. "You know," Aunt Marie said, taking a bite of the cake, "they wanted you to pay for their mistakes. Instead, you made them pay for yours." "No," I smiled, feeling lighter than I had in years. "I just finally stopped paying for theirs. My bakery is busier than ever, and for the first time in my life, I don't feel the shadow of my family looming over me. I am free."